We're about to dive into the AI failures that some of the biggest names in tech have tried to bury. We're talking about everything from fatal accidents to systems that were designed with bias built right in. This is the story they really didn't want you to hear. Okay, so let's start here. April 25th, 2019. A fatal crash down in Florida. A car on autopilot slams into a truck, and a life is lost. Now, at first, the story seemed pretty straightforward. A terrible case of driver error. But as investigators started digging, they realized the real story was way more complicated. You see, what happened after that crash wasn't just a simple investigation. It turned into this multi-year battle over one single crucial question. What did the car's AI actually do? And, maybe more importantly, what was the company willing to do to keep that information under wraps? So let's start right there with what looks an awful lot like a cover-up. We're going to break down the absolutely extraordinary lengths one company allegedly went to, all to conceal the truth about its AI's role in a person's death. This timeline really lays out what looks like a pattern of deception. So get this, just 3 minutes after the crash, the car sends a complete collision snapshot, all the data, straight to Tesla's servers. They had it the whole time. But for years, the company claimed that data either didn't exist or it was corrupted. They even, allegedly, scripted the police's own data request to specifically leave out the most important files. It was only when they were cornered with forensic proof that Tesla finally handed over the data it had been hiding all along. So what was on that hidden data? Well, it was damning. It showed Autopilot was 100% in control and the driver wasn't trying to fight it. And even crazier, the car's own map data knew the area was a restricted auto-steer zone, but the system just kept on going, full speed. But here's the real kicker. The data proved no takeover immediately alert was ever given. The system failed, and the proof was concealed. But look, this isn't just about one company or one single crash. The Tesla incident, it really shines a spotlight on a much deeper, more systemic problem in the AI world: bias by design. These aren't just random glitches. The flaws are often built in from the very beginning. Yeah, these are not just random errors. See, AI learns from the data we feed it. And if that data reflects our own biases, about gender or race or anything else, the AI won't just learn those biases. It'll amplify them and adding massive scale. Take Amazon, for example. Back around 2014, they tried to build the Holy Grail, an AI that could screen resumes. But they trained it on 10 years of their own hiring data, which, surprise, was mostly from men. And the result? The AI literally taught itself that men were better candidates. It started penalizing resumes that had the word women's in them, and it even downgraded graduates from 2 all-women's colleges. They had to scrap the whole thing. And who remembers Tay? Oh man, Microsoft's friendly little AI chatbot. It was designed to learn from talking to people on Twitter. But in less than a day, just 16 hours, it was spewing all this awful, racist, genocidal stuff. Why? Because users had basically taught it to be toxic. It was a very public and very early warning sign about how easily these things can go off the rails. But the consequences here go way beyond just offensive tweets. An algorithm that was being used in U.S. hospitals was found to be dramatically biased against Black patients. Now, it was supposed to flag the sickest people for extra care, but instead of looking at, their actual health, it looked at healthcare cost. And because of systemic inequities, Black patients often spend less on healthcare. So the AI wrongly concluded they must be healthier. The result was just shocking. The AI only flagged about 18% of Black patients for extra care, when the real number who needed it was closer to 47%. That is a life-threatening flaw. Okay, so we've got AI systems that are failing, they're biased. So what are the companies doing about it? Well, that brings us to this practice that some people are starting to call the ethics charade. This is a really key term to understand: ethics washing. It's basically the corporate version of, hey, look over here. It's all about creating the appearance of being ethical, setting up shiny new ethics boards, publishing grand principles, while doing very little to actually change the products, often just to avoid real government regulation. And here is a pretty stunning admission of what that actually looks like from the inside. According to whistleblowers, after getting dragged in front of Congress, Meta's legal team's goal wasn't to fix the problems. Their goal was, and I quote, to establish plausible deniability about the harm their products were causing. The priority wasn't protecting users, it was protecting the company. And here's how they did it. Documents show that Meta's own legal team was actively telling researchers to steer clear of sensitive topics. In one case, a lawyer literally told a researcher not to collect data showing kids were using their VR devices. And this was right after employees had already been warning that kids under 13 were getting around the age restrictions. The strategy was pretty clear. If you don't write down the problem, you can pretend it doesn't exist. And it's not just Meta. Google gives us another really powerful example. They launched this huge, high-profile external AI ethics council. It got all this great press. It was supposed to show everyone how serious they were about this stuff. And it fell apart in just 9 days. For critics, it was like the poster child for ethics washing in action. So this whole pattern, the cover-ups, the PR spin, it's created a really serious problem. And now, the alarm isn't just coming from journalists or academics anymore. It's coming from inside the companies themselves. I mean, think about it. These are the people who know the systems best. They know what they can do, what their limits are, and what the real dangers are. And a growing number of them are starting to speak out, even though it puts their careers at enormous risk. This quote here, it's from an open letter signed by current and former employees at places like OpenAI and Google DeepMind. It just gets right to the heart of the problem. They're warning that these broad confidentiality agreements are basically trapping them. They can only report their concerns internally to the exact same companies that might be ignoring the problems in the first place. They are effectively silenced. So what are these insiders actually asking for? Well, their demands are pretty straightforward. They want an end to agreements that stop them from talking about AI risks. They want a safe way to report concerns straight to the board. And critically, they want real legal protections for whistleblowers. This isn't about hurting their companies. It's about holding them accountable. And all of this, it brings us to the final and frankly, the most important question. We've seen alleged cover-ups, we've seen built-in bias, these ethics charades, and now we're hearing warnings from the creators themselves. So who is actually in charge of making sure this technology is safe? To really get a sense of the scale of this problem, just look at this number. 250 million. That is the estimated number of hallucinations or, completely made-up facts that just one major AI model generates every single day. That's 250 million mistakes daily. So why? Why are these systems so prone to just making stuff up? Well, this quote right here explains the business model perfectly. AI companies have made a conscious choice to build models that will guess an answer, rather than just admit they don't know. And why would they do that? Because they're afraid a slower, more cautious AI would be bad for marketing. Speed and market share are being put ahead of accuracy and safety. And that is where it leaves us. You have insiders risking their entire careers to sound the alarm, and companies that seem way more focused on public relations than on public safety. It forces all of us to ask, if the people building the tools are being muzzled, and the companies can't be trusted to regulate themselves, then who is going to protect the rest of us? That is the question we all need to be asking.